Good morning, welcome back to my garden. Today I'm in the backyard and I'm going to be working in a garden that is a path that the dogs like to run through, and hoping that what I'm going to do today is going to help train them to not take this path. There's some places in my garden that I kind of just accept that they're going to go through. They've ruined plants going through and I just end up removing the plants and let that be a path that they take. In the front garden, I showed you recently that I have just some stepping stones that go beneath the front porch, that goes back to an area where they like to lay, and I just kind of accept it. There's some things you can control, there's some things you can't. Sometimes there's just fights with the dogs I just don't want to make. So this spot though is a path that they don't need to take. It's a path that they kind of take out of excitement, and they've consequently ruined two shrubs that I have planted there. So what I'm going to do is use a container, and I've done this in other places in the garden and it's helped. They see more bulk there and they just naturally don't take that path. So I'm standing back here under our back patio area, and I'm going to turn you around and I'm going to show you the path that they take, and then I'm going to show you a little bit more of what I'm going to do to block it and hopefully in turn train them to not take that path. Okay, so I'm standing back here on the patio and I'm just going to kind of walk you the path that they take. As you can see, there's two boxwood here. There used to be a third that I just ended up removing because they kept running through here and ended up kind of damaging the boxwood, so I just embraced that they wanted to go that way. Now this is a path that they take through here. They jump up into this bed, they take a leap, and they basically end right up there where Toby is. So for some reason up there doesn't take as much damage, but right here you can see what they've done to this barberry and to this poor hydrangea. It's used to be nice and full. They've broken off the side of it, kind of deformed it. It's not too big of a deal as far as the hydrangea goes because it blooms on new wood. It should bounce back pretty well next year. But what I'm going to end up doing is removing this barberry here, potting it up, trying to let it get a chance to, rebound, regrow. And I'm going to be taking this black container. It doesn't have holes in it right now. I'm going to need to punch holes in it. It's just a little metal container. I got it at Fred Meyer, pretty inexpensive. And I'm going to plop it right here, basically right in their way. I'm going to put a Vitex in it, the one that's just sitting right there. I've had this for a couple years and I've just never planted it out. It just continues to be in a container. So I'm going to plant that in the container, and then I'm going to surround it with some other pretty things. So again, my hope is that when there is something of more bulk there, it will prevent them from going there. Now, of course, it could encourage them to go another way through the garden at the same time. I don't know, we'll see. But the reason this matters to me, similar to the no dig bed, is that it is a view that I see from in the house. I see this from when I'm on the other side of our kitchen, or when I'm sitting in my favorite little swivel chair in our breakfast nook. I see this spot and I would love to see something pretty right here rather than what I know of as a broken plant that the dogs did. So I might also put, I have some hog paneling that is sort of formed into a little bit of a fence. I might put that here too. I do work with the dogs. Usually it is when I come out of the house first thing and they get really excited and they, for some reason, the 3 border collies just take this path. And I've found that if I come out and I start to see them getting excited and they come back into the backyard, if I say, no, 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 they'll actually not go through this spot. So they kind of more inadvertently, they'll go along the actual paths that I have set up in the garden. So that's helping, I think. I think that they are learning, but I think this will further help them. I'm going to go show you another spot really quick before I start on this project, where else I have utilized this kind of technique. And I'll also show you a couple other places in the garden that I've just sort of embraced and letting them have their way, have them, let them have a spot where they like to travel through, where they like to lay, and so forth. So we're going to travel up into the front garden right now. I'll show you where I put another container to block their path. So up here in the front garden, this is where I was showing you the other day. This is where I have these stones here that just kind of lead through into that opening, and there's some over here on this side as well. Right here that just, I mean, the dogs don't obviously need the stepping stones to get back there, but they like that spot underneath the front steps, and so I just put those stones there just to kind of remind myself, don't plant anything there. They take that path, and I do think it actually kind of helps them to just take that path rather than, you know, going through any place else to get back there. This is another example of just embracing what the dogs are creating through the yard. They ran a path straight through this grass, and they just dug in a divot into the grass. This is where they would go from the walkway here across to use the path right over there that goes down to the lower garden. And I just ended up digging in stepping stones to kind of cover up their path and make it look a little bit more intentional. And they still take that path nicely and haven't made a mess, you know, in any other spot on the grass. Here's a spot that I've just kind of left open for them. They always love to come and stand right here on this front stone right here and look out onto the driveway. So I've just intentionally not planted anything there or right here because I just know that that's where they're going to step and that's where they're going to stand, and the rocks kind of invite them to do that, and that's fine. I just leave it open for them. Under this Weigela here, I just end up needing to leave it open. I did plant some hosta in there that you can see have kind of been smushed because the dogs love to lay here, and I just, like I said, this is a spot where I just need to embrace the fact that they go here, they come in underneath this whole bed, they just appreciate the shade. So I just kind of leave it open, I leave it unplanted for the most part because I know the dogs are going to come under here, and you know they need a shady spot. So that's just fine. I hope the hostas will still come back next year and be happy under there, and then the dogs can kind of, you know, use this area over here a little bit more. But we'll see. I mean, my dogs are here to stay, as is my garden, but I have to just kind of work my garden a little bit around their habits and what their needs are. However, there are some times where the dogs will go places that they don't necessarily need to go. So you can see where this container is right here. They would run along this path, tear through here to go up that path right over there. And I'm thinking, why do you do that when there's an opening right here? So I put this planter here, kind of at the front of the bed, which, you know, is a little awkward because it's a little higher than what's behind it. But it did stop them. It does stop them from running through this bed, and now they just take the curve and take the path, and that's good. That's what I wanted them to do. So I'm hoping that putting the container in the back garden will have the same effect. I don't know. If anything else, if nothing else, it'll at least be something pretty for me to look at, and it'll probably slow them down a bit. So, but you know, they're dogs, and why they do what they do, I don't always know. So anyway, I'm going to show you what else we're going to plant into that container, and then we'll get started on putting some holes into it and getting it planted up with some pretty things. Darn, I should have been recording because as I just went in to get my new battery, I came out and Toby took a beeline right towards this spot, and I was saying, no, 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 no. And sure enough, he stopped and he veered the other way, stayed on the lawn. So, he's learning. He's just a puppy, so, you know, it's a process. But anyway, okay, so I have my battery, and I'm gonna put it into my drill, and we're gonna start off with putting some holes into the container. here's what I'm thinking. I have the Scaevola, one of them placed down here. There's 4 of them in there, and then 1 more back here in this little container. This container has the 1 Scaevola, and there's 2, it's not planted yet, but then 2 coleus. And then there's this one other Vitex that I have in this container here that I just brought out from my garden shed. So, I mean, it's 2 of the same plant, but it kind of fills in this area nicely. Another option that I was thinking is actually just to move that. That's a lemon cypress that I cut the top off of. It was in one of the front containers by the front porch, and I took it out recently because the top died. So I might put that right there instead, just leaving it in that black container because I can't see the container at all from in the house. And that really is what I'm mostly thinking about here in this planting area. Because, you know, as we get closer into fall and I'm not out here as much, once school starts and we start our homeschool routine, I'm inside a lot more. And we do some of our school work here at the windows where we can see back here. So that's why I'm giving this so much thought, as far as the perspective that we see, you know, the view that we see from the inside, just because we're on the verge of being inside a lot more. So anyway, I think this is the avenue that I'm gonna go, and I do think that this little area here between those rocks would be a really nice place for a Scaevola, but I don't really want to have that container right there have just the coleus in it. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe this spot will be where I may put another perennial that I actually have in my garden shed that I need to plant out. So we'll see. I think we'll go with this and yeah, get this area buttoned up. everything planted. I moved things around a little bit from the last time I showed you. It's just kind of interesting, you know, once you get kind of working in a space and getting things situated, I mean, just things change. So I realized that I forgot to tell you even about the two little annuals that I was working with. They're actually 2025 releases from Proven Winners that I picked up when I went to the event that Janie with Dig Plant Water Repeat put on there. One of them is a new Scaveola and the other one is a new Coleus. And you know, it's so late in the season that I don't think I'm going to get a really good idea on how actually these two plants will grow. I know that they showed that at the event that the Coleus actually gets quite large, even though it's called a mini-me variety. It gets quite large. Where I planted it, there's not enough room for it to get as large as it possibly would, but I'm not worried about it. Just again, like I said, it's late in the season. We're already dipping down into the 50s at night, low 50s at night, and pretty much staying in the 70s during the day. So these plants, you know, they'll go until our first frost, but as far as their growth, I don't think they're going to be putting on a huge amount of growth. So I'll turn you around and show you where things ended up and these two specific annuals that I worked with. Okay, we have a nice cloud cover going on right now, so hopefully you can see these well. This one is a Color Blaze Mini-Me Chartreuse, and obviously it's tiny right now. So I don't usually grow Coleus, but I was really attracted to this chartreuse color, really pretty and bright, so I just thought I would see how that does. And then this one I know is going to be a fast favorite of mine. It is a Scaveola or a Scaveola, depending on who's saying it. It's a Stardiva Blue. They also have a Stardiva White and a Stardiva Pink. I just happened to pick this one up. Obviously, I mean, it's purple. It's not blue. I have true blue plants in my garden. This one is purple, but anyway, this is different than the typical Scaveola, which is actually called a fan flower. That's its common name. And then you can see these ones are Stardiva because the flowers are actually in the shape of a star. And the growth habit on these that they showed at Bauman's was very mounded and very dense with flowers. So I absolutely love that. I've had really good experience with the Scaveola that I have in my front raised bed. It's a white one. It's the Whirlwinds White, I believe is the line for those ones. It's just done amazingly for me. So I'm pretty excited about this new one, and I just thought that the purple color was just gorgeous. So that is also what I planted around the Vitex. Now these Vitex, they actually get quite large, but these two, I've had two in a container for a while. I had them in the ground at first, and they are so incredibly slow to push out their new growth that it was hard for me to have them in the landscape, honestly. So I've had them in containers in my garden shed, and they have done, you know, pretty well in there. They have really pretty foliage, and they do have beautiful flowers when they do flower. I don't know if you can see that. It's actually a very similar color to the Stardiva that's underneath it. I have a Vitex in the front yard that's called Flipside, and it is doing amazingly well. So I don't know what's up with this one and this one that's down here in that container. But you know what? That's kind of one of the fun things about having containers is you can just kind of move them around and fill in spaces that need it at the different times of the year. So I grew these on, like I said, in my garden shed, and now they're all fleshed out and pretty, and they're able to fill in a spot in the garden bed that is otherwise a little bit empty. So that works out well for me. I'll probably plop these both back into my garden shed when they lose their leaves and they're done out here. And or I might leave them in the garden. I'm not really sure. But anyway, so yeah, so behind the Vitex in the container, Bella's kind of blocking the way here, but you can see there's another Stardiva on the ground here next to a Nepeta that's pretty much done blooming. So those colors, they would look pretty together, but they're not going to compete. I tucked the other little mini chartreuse Coleus right there. I did initially plant it right in here, and I'm not really sure why, because this guy totally blocked it. So quickly moved it over there, and right here is the plant I'm going to be doing a video on very shortly, so I won't talk about it too much. And then here is the goofy lemon cypress that I topped, and it's just in a nursery can, but it's so tucked back there. I mean, this is pretty much the view that you typically would see. You don't even see the can. And it just gives a nice bold texture right there, filling in the spot that the hydrangea, it's actually a bobo hydrangea that's tucked right back there that, like I said at the beginning of the video, the dogs broke, so it's looking quite spindly. These are protecting it. So I think that this is a pretty good solid block for the dogs to not be jumping through here. Yeah, time will tell. I don't know. We'll see. Are you going to jump through there, Tiki? Are you going to jump through there? He just wants me to throw his ball. So anyway, yeah, I think that that turned out really nice. I went in the house and I looked at the view from inside, and it's just so sweet. I mean, that purple is just one of my most favorite colors in the garden. So I am really happy with how it turned out. So that's going to do it for this project. I have to now stop the dogs from trying to eat the bees off of the allium that is there, because for some reason they think that they really need to do that. And thankfully, oh, I just saw Teak just get one. Thankfully, none of the border collies have had any strong adverse effects of chewing and eating bees. I don't know why they do that. It kind of added to the list of the frustrations that I have with my dogs in my garden. But at any rate, thanks for hanging out with me today while I kind of fixed up this space, hopefully making a barrier from the dogs jumping through the beds, and yeah, just making it look pretty sweet from inside the house, and trying out also these new 2025 annuals from Proven Winners. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.